On the issue of the alteration in the budget, Governor was very angry when I saw the possibility of the alteration. This committee respects the control of budget a lot. And because you have demonstrated here, I have seen from the annexure that you actually held meetings. I have seen minutes and the correspondent opinion of the control of budget. I am persuaded that you did not alter your budgets. I was coming with a machete on behalf of the Amabusi.
Thank you. May I start on the bus? Let me start on one, on the issues of what Dr. Mang has able to advise me on those issues of pen bills.
Yes.
I want to say that Umanga by then was not in office yet this time in.
Yes.
There's the county attorney who guided us as per the law, and I was given the floor just to respond on that issue. So I can subsequently answer the other ones.
Thank you, Chair. May I explain that these committees are different. The first committee was a creature of what came out as an advice from IBEC and the COG, and literally all counties had a model following what the President had done, but had external persons coming in to work with persons from within the county. They were gazetted, and there were requirements then to follow the criteria and requirements to follow in recruiting those persons. I am aware that at some point, one litigant went to court and a decision was made by Justice Murima before it was transferred from Milimani High Court, and he said these kind of committees were illegal because they are taking up the role of Auditor General. So that did not mean that the counties, for purposes of prudence, cannot come up with internal committees. So this second and third committee does not have anybody from outside the county or any resource being spent for binding on anybody out there. This is for purposes of prudence, and I want to explain why this committee is there. When a payment, the voucher, is placed before an accounting officer, these are the chief officers, where he sits or she sits may not know precisely whether this bill, he or she may not evaluate that bill, and therefore leave to the requirements of paying a bill that has passed the test for payment. There are three issues here that come into play. There is an aspect of lawfulness. If you are seeking a payment, it has to be lawful. So there is need to establish one, whether the procurement process was commenced properly, there was an award for tender, there was a properly signed agreement, so that under Section 6.4 of the County Governments Act, county governments are bound by contracts lawfully executed. And then the Act itself, the PPAD Act, gives requirements on how a contract is to be executed. It has to be signed by the accounting officer in person, or someone given authority in writing, and the person giving the service, such that if those requirements are not met, then there is no proper contract, and you cannot pay, and there are authorities from our courts to that effect. Or for instance, a contract has to be signed after 14 days from the date of notification of award. And if you sign before or even up to the 14th day, and we have decisions to that effect, then that contract is invalid. So these are some of the issues. If you have a committee like this, with which is multi-sectoral, legal and other departments, will analyze and advise that this pending bill has met the threshold. I've given an example of legal, so there will also be the issue of voter being properly supported. There is a whole checklist of documents. So we have to bring on board Department of Audit, Accounts, and the examiner of voters into this committee so that this committee looks at whether the requirements have been met. There is also procurement that we have to look at whether all the requirements of procurement are met, and then budget. So there is the aspect of lawfulness against the bill to be paid. There is the aspect of properly being supported, and then there is the question of budget. So this is the role of these internal committees to advise once they analyze and make a report and advise, so that any chief officer sitting as an accounting officer has a report to guide that person. Because they may not and they cannot have the knowledge that is multi-sectoral, so that we live true to the principles of public finance, that we have to be prudent in expense. If you pay without prudence, then the law is against you. You will be caught up. So that's why we have these committees. Whether they are lawful, I would say yes. The second and third committees are internal committees, and there is no law that limits us from having internal committees to help us to find a way of operating efficiently. They are for efficiency.